Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, we always think of time as this eternal construct, but it's a bit more loosey-goosey than we tend to realize. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals. We pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more, in a light and in a conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. And if you are, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Give us the old 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere. Places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we'd absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Letterboxd, the TikTok, and probably a few other places too, at In the Seats, for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it even more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So do us that kindness and pay us a visit. On this episode, we got another fun one, another little bit of Canadiana, which is in theaters now. It's called Relax, I'm from the Future, and it's about a man from the future, now trapped in the past, who's trying to make a life for himself, oblivious to the consequences that he has set in motion. It is hilarious, and it's from writer-director Luke Higginson, and it stars the one and only Rhys Darby as our man from the future. And there's people like Gabrielle Graham, Julian Richlings, a lot of other fantastic, talented people telling this story. Like I said, it is in limited theatrical release now. I'm sure it's coming to VOD pretty soon. But first off, enjoy our talk with Luke, because we got into the nitty gritty of the origins of the story and so very, very much more. Just to kick this off officially, obviously, thank you so much for the time today, and just congratulations on the film as always, man.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you again. Thank you again for moderating our premiere. That was really fun.
Oh, happy to do it, man. Always. No, I mean, for those who don't know, who are listening, I mean, this is sci-fi kind of the way I like it. It's one of the ways I like it. It's hilarious, and it's not taking itself a little too seriously. Like, walk me through the origin of this story, because I mean, it was a short and then years and it's become a feature, right? So
yeah. It was a short I made in 2013 that was literally just a 5-minute sort of goof I made with some very talented friends of mine, sort of a few $1,000 out of my pocket on a rooftop, about a time traveler who didn't have a plan, who wasn't here for any particular reason and was just trying to sort of fill his time. And that was just a funny idea to me. And the short did better than I expected, and people liked it. And I got asked about expanding it, and I had to sort of figure out what that would look like. And what it ended up looking like was a way for me to sort of filter all my fears and anxieties about the future through, and try to make myself laugh a little bit, and find my way out of a couple of pits of despair.
Well, no, it's the creative process for sure. But
yeah.
I've got to imagine that sort of the expansion of it all like was helped a lot when you were sort of bouncing back the idea of who do we get to play the lead. And I mean, I'm sure like somebody like Rhys Darby, and then I'm sure somebody in the room said, well, why don't you just ask Rhys Darby?
It was incredible. I still cannot believe our luck that we got him. It was amazing. And it was not written specifically for him, but it was written for someone who needed to be incredibly likable, incredibly charismatic, and had this sort of natural energy, because the character does some things and goes to some places that are a little morally questionable, and you have to sort of be there with him, at least for the most part, and you have to like him. And when Rhys's name came up, it was such a moment of like, oh my God, that would be perfect.
We'll never get
And
that guy.
yeah, no, and just I still remember what an amazing phone call it was to I mean, eventually when I talked to Rhys as well, but even just the very first one, I got a call from my producer who told me that Rhys's manager liked the script and said that he thought that it felt like it was written for him, and that was sort of a really like exciting moment because it wasn't, but we agreed that as soon as his name came up, we like just started reading the script to each other in his voice in our heads, and like it just clicked. It just made sense, and so I really think that was there was something special about that. It was kind of magical.
Well, for sure,
And
man.
then when yeah.
No,
Um,
but I mean, it just leads into sort of the ensemble that you have as well, because I mean, not only did you get Rhys to obviously play Casper, but like Gabrielle, Julian, Janine, you've got such a loaded ensemble here. Like, talk to me a little bit about your casting process to find the right people. Like, was Rhys the last,
Absolutely.
or did you have the cast and then Rhys, or was it Rhys and then you had to go find other people?
He kind of came in the middle, interestingly. Yeah, I got incredibly lucky with my cast. I'm so grateful. But yeah, it was funny actually. We kind of got each member of the core cast in a different way. So the first person that I cast actually was Gabrielle Graham, who I sort of was very early looking around for potential people who could play Holly. And I saw her in the movie Possessor by Brandon Cronenberg. She's in the
Oh,
first 10 minutes of that film, and she's incredible in that movie. And she just pops on screen. And she's actually playing a character named Holly in that movie. And I sort of took that as a sign, and I reached out to her, and it immediately became clear within like a few minutes of talking to her that she was right for the role. And so she was the first person, and that I reached out to her directly for that. Julian Richings I've been a fan of for since seeing Hardcore Logo in high school, and I literally recorded a video of myself begging him to be in the movie and sent it to him, and he came on board, and he's been a dream to work with. Uh, uh, Rhys came on around the same time, and I've sort of described that I got on a call with him after his manager had passed him the script. I was expecting to sort of have to do a huge pitch to him, convincing him to do this tiny movie that it was in his interest to do so. And I had all these arguments lined up, and then as soon as he came on screen, he was just like, "So are you okay with me doing this?" And it was just he was just so uh, generous and open and just incredible. I still can't believe how great that was. And then for Janine, who plays Doris, was the only one of the key cast that we just watched a bunch of video auditions for. Like we just sort of had a ton of people send in tapes. And what was amazing about Janine was that so many of the people who sent in their videos, even ones who were good actors, like very strong actors, fundamentally didn't understand the comedic nature of the character. Like there were so many people who sort of delivered these absurd monologues she has as if they were on like a cop show. And it was so interesting to see how Janine was one of the few who just immediately understood what the character was and what the tone was. And it just like, she just popped on the screen immediately. I was like, oh, this is different. This person actually understands what this is. And that was really cool. And then finally, Zachary Bennett, who plays Chuck in the movie, is an old friend of mine and actually played Casper in the short film in 2013. So yeah, all of those, I just had to have him in the movie, and all of those roles. It's so fun to me how they each came together from a completely different place. But I'm so proud and happy to have them all in the film.
No, I mean, I've got to ask because you've got so many talented people on this. Like, are you a director who's sort of very precious to the words on the page, or do you give your actors a little bit of rope? Because I mean, I'm just thinking of the rooftop with Rhys and Julian. I've got to imagine there was a temptation to just let them riff.
For sure. Well, I mean, I think you would be a fool to cast Rhys Darby and not be open to him riffing like that. That would be stupid. And we no, as soon as he was going to be on board, I knew that I would be open to anything that he wanted to give me. And it is helpful that I'm an editor. I've been an editor my whole career, and I was going to be editing this film, and so I definitely was thinking about the edit while we shot and while Rhys came up with stuff. And sometimes it definitely happened. Sometimes that Rhys would come up with a great joke or a great line that didn't fit the moment, that didn't sort of like broke the character a little bit. And so those you have to leave out. But most of the time, he just was in lockstep with the character, and then also just coming up with these like great singers, and it's magical to watch him cook. And so yeah, no, that was, I'm extremely open to that. I am precious about the script only in that the ideas of the script are very important to me, and the sort of the tone of the film was very important to me. And so as long as we were on the rails of where we needed to go, I was very happy to let my incredibly talented actors do their thing, just sort of like go where they needed to go. Yeah.
But I mean, there's something about the detail in this film as well. I mean, from his purple jumpsuit to having a VHS collection in the basement, it's like there's something that about it that just really seems very precious and so sort of character orientated, especially for people who are really watching and really picking up. Like, how important was it for you to give audiences something that was basically had a lot of stuff in it? Because this definitely felt like a guy who wanted stuff.
I like stuff, and I like movies with a lot of stuff in them. It was very important to me. I mean, like, first of all, sort of character wise, I always liked the idea of a time traveler as a sort of retro fetishist, as someone who had this nostalgic obsession with our time, sort of an idea that I've always been fond of. And so that was very much baked into the film. But as you're saying, I like movies that have all this stuff that you sort of can choose not to pay attention to if you want, but if you sort of are like watching in the corners of what's going on,
it adds
you
layers,
can pick up these little details. It does, exactly. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of that, and so I've tried to put it in my film wherever I can.
And I mean, it's one of those things, like I said, I mean, just with the jumpsuit, and I mean, with Gabby in the jacket, there is such a sense of style as well. It definitely felt like you didn't want to play on any sort of standard sci-fi tropes, but at the same time not sort of have it like everyone had to look distinct.
Yes.
If that makes
absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, that's actually something that I really, it's something that I like when movies do, but it's something that I really took from, I mean, I've been a comic book reader for years, and I love that sort of thing that good comic books do well, of just this sort of, yeah, they make their character designs iconic. Like, they make it so, like, it's so important for a character to have a look that makes them different from everyone else, and that is a thing I've always strived for. Like, I mean, a great example in film is like Sorry to Bother You, the Boots Riley film. Like, just
yeah, totally. Like, oh my God, yeah,
that look that Lakeith Stanfield has, with the head bandage, with the perfectly placed wound, and the sort of the specific getup. Like, it's just you can almost see his silhouette and like get what character it is, and that's something I've always loved, and that's something I strive for sure with the characters. I also want to shout out my costume team. Carol McDonald specifically made the future suits, and she did an amazing job. And then Este and Felicia Mancini made Holly's jacket and the other wardrobe pieces, and they just really they knocked it out of the park. They were really good.
Well, and I mean, I appreciate even like, like the windbreaker, like he's wearing on the roof, that kind of thing. It's something that doesn't necessarily get appreciated, but I mean, allowing these characters to have that extra pop really makes them sort of that much more memorable, at least for me as my perspective as a viewer.
Yeah, I love that. Was very intentional, and actually, that's something we talked about a lot, both in the pre-production sort of costume design, production design stage, and then also in color correction. Like it was always designed that like the world itself is like a little dull and a little gray, but our characters are very colorful and will kind of almost pop off the background. That's sort of a thing that we really pursued making the film.
And I mean, something else I've got to ask you about, because I mean, obviously, Canadian independent production, you're working on a budget. You had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
locations, man. I mean, I got to ask about like actually finding a place to build and turn into a bunker.
Yeah. The my incredible first AD, Jeremy Doran. The first thing he said when he had read the script and he talked to me about it. He was like, "Sure, well, a lot of locations for a movie your budget." He was very sort of immediately concerned about that, and he did an amazing job scheduling it so we could actually get everything shot. But yeah, we do. It's quite ambitious for the budget level in terms of what we're trying to do. But I like films that do that. I like films that sort of like are ambitious for what they're trying to achieve with what they have, and it's something I give
They
credit
get the
to when I
bang for
watch
their
movies.
buck, as it were.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I mean, just when watching this film, I mean, there's such joy in it. I mean, I'm kind of curious because obviously you're the guy on set. You're kind of leading the team. How do you sort of keep the energy up, but also sort of keep everyone on point as well? Because at the same time, you're working with people that, some of them are your friends, some of them you're developing relationships with.
Hmm.
Sometimes you want to let Rhys and Julian riff for an hour straight, but you can't.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the short answer is I'm just incredibly lucky that I had amazing people around. Like my crew was unbelievable, my cast was unbelievable. But I yes, that is part of the job, is sort of keep make sure you're not wasting everyone's time. I think it's really maybe the most important thing for a director is to know what you want and know when you've got it. And maybe I didn't succeed 100% of the time on that, but I think I'm pretty good at that. And I think I'm pretty good at not losing my shit and about sort of rolling with the punches, which is, I think, an essential skill in indie filmmaking. And you just do your best to yeah, keep everything positive, keep everything rolling. And again, you can only do it when you're surrounded by good people, which
For
is
sure.
what I was very lucky to be.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, just to start putting a bow on this, it's a dumb question, but it's one I always like to ask. Think back to
Hmm.
young Luke. Was there a movie or
Hmm.
a moment in your life that had the light bulb go off in your head and went, shit, I want to do this. I want to be a storyteller.
Yeah. I'll give two. I mean, it's I feel like it's almost like a little corny
You can
to
say
say
Star
this,
Wars,
but
it's
like
fine. I mean,
I oh, I mean, Star Wars is a part of me for sure. But for whatever reason, seeing the Shawshank Redemption at the age of like, I think like 10 or 11 or something, for
okay.
some reason I was right at the correct age to, for the first time, really understand that people were behind the scenes making that film. And there was something that clicked for me with that movie specifically, where I was just like, oh, this works because all these different people were doing their jobs at the same time and it came together. And it's like, I think there's very little direct influence on my work from that film, but like I just so clearly remember that light bulb going off. It's like, oh, this is like a bunch of people doing their jobs and it makes this thing. And that was sort of a key moment for me. But in relation to this film, another very early one was, I don't remember the first time I saw Back to the Future, but I do remember the first time I saw Back to the Future Part Two,
Okay. All right.
and specifically when Marty goes back and sees himself in the first movie was like one of those real like moments for me as like as a kid. Like I was just like, you can do that, like that, like just absolutely blew my mind. And there's there's a direct reference to that in the film, but like
Totally, yeah.
it's that is a I mean I love that movie so much. And I mean it's sort of the gold standard of time travel movies, but certainly time travel comedies. But that really was a like I have such a clear crystal memory of seeing that, and it opening my perception of what you could do in a movie.
No, but you know what? I mean, I love both those answers, and especially Shawshank, because I mean,
Mm.
if you remember back in the day, I mean, that movie, like on paper, shouldn't have been as epic as it was.
Hmm.
And it was such an example of how you can do something really big with not necessarily sort of big resources. And I mean, I definitely think Relax,
Hmm.
I'm from the Future kind of qualifies there because this really
High
was thick. It
praise.
was timing, it was boom, and it looked like $1 million. But again, it's a Canadian movie with not a lot of money. So God bless them. They did a fantastic job. And I mean, that's just speaks to you and it speaks to the team that you had as well. But I mean, Luke, I cannot wait for more and more people to see this. But again, just thank you for the time today, and congrats on the movie, man. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. This was great, and yeah, thank you so much.
All righty. All right. Talk to you soon, man. And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.